What's up, guys? I'm back. Welcome to DeAnna Lorraine's Make Love Great Again on the New Right Network. How's it going, guys? It is Monday, July 23rd, and I will be right back. Woohoo! We're in the middle of a romance apocalypse. There are more single adults than ever before. Marriage is on the decline. The birth rate is at the lowest point in history. People are not connecting and forming real relationships. For the first time in human history, the very concepts of marriage and romance, God, the family, gender, and even our national anthem are under attack. Our American values have been slowly deteriorating and replaced with liberal, progressive values. We are in the middle of not only the romance apocalypse, but a war on our very souls. Speaking the truth is called hate speech. Patriotism is now called racism. Believing in God makes you a bigot. The current state of America is directly intertwined with the current state of our relationships. We are actively enslaving ourselves into a loveless, joyless, genderless future. Men and women of common sense and a moral compass need to wake up to the destructive madness that is being thrust upon us in the name of progressiveness and political correctness, and look ahead to where this ideology and agenda are ultimately taking us. We can make love great again. We can make America great again. But we need to remember who we are. We need to remember the spirit and the values that once made this country and our relationships so great.
This is a struggle for the survival of our nation. And this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy.
And we will make America great again. Woo! And we will make love great again. Hey guys, what's going on? It's DeAnna. And it's Monday morning. I am pretty dead tired right now because I just got back from London yesterday, and I was there for the International Conference on Men's Issues, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But first, let's just check in with Periscope, with YouTube Live and Twitch and everything else, and make sure that everything is working and all good. So let's see, we've got YouTube Live, looks like it's working well, and Periscope seems like it's all on point. So hopefully you guys can hear me and you can see me, and I will proceed. Okay, so I was there for the International Conference on Men's Issues, which I'll show you in a moment. And I got back yesterday, but I was supposed to actually get back on Saturday evening. And I missed my flight. First time I've missed my flight, and God knows when. I can't remember the last time, if ever, I've ever missed a flight, but there were some road blockages that wasn't accounted for in the GPS on the way to the airport, and the airport itself was over an hour and a half away, it turned out. So I ended up getting there, and they were total assholes about not getting me through, even though I had an hour to spare before the flight. So I ended up having to stay and hang out for the rest of the night. I went back to the conference, and then I didn't leave till, let's see, the next flight out of there was about 5 in the morning, yesterday morning. So it was a long day, and it was a long week too. For some reason, when I was over in London, my body was not letting me sleep. So I had maybe a total of 3 hours of sleep every night, and I'm a little sleep deprived. So if I'm a little slow today, that's the reason why. But anyways, it's good to be here, and it's good to be home, and it's good to be back with you guys. I am the author of Making Love Great Again, the new road to reviving romance and winning at relationships. And that's the biggest thing that we want to do, is win at relationships, because when we have the essential relationship between man and woman, when that is good and healthy and strong, then guess what? Then we can have strong families, and then we can have a strong country, because you need strong families in order to have a very strong country. And the founding fathers always knew that the strength of a nation is derived from the strength of the home and the family. That means the family. So that's my crusade and what my campaign is all about. And of course, how do we have strong families and a strong relationship between men and women? Well, because the common link is really American conservative values. And if you don't live in America, it's really comes down to having more traditional conservative values, and the way respecting our differences as men and women and celebrating them and learning how to work with them instead of demonizing them or pretending they don't exist and fighting against them. We are meant to be complementary and not competitive. And that is what modern day people, liberals, and crazy feminists all have in common. So, how's everyone doing tonight? How was your weekend? How was your weekend? How was your week? I haven't seen you guys in a couple days because I had to take Friday off. Hey, we've got Wesley in the house. We've got Shooter from Down Under in the house. Espinoza, what's up, guys? In fact, you look like you're in good shape. Oh, thank you. I hide it well. Well, you guys give me energy, and speaking about the things that I'm passionate about gives me energy. So there you have it. So let's talk a little bit about, hold on, let's just make sure everything's up to speed. Oh, thanks, Wesley. It was empty without you, too. I had my birthday over the weekend. Cool. What did you do for your birthday? Hopefully something special. So the International Conference on Men's Issues was phenomenal. I am so happy that I was able to go. It was a tremendous opportunity that I'm really grateful for and very excited about. I'm happy, very happy that I went and made the trek across the world to London to have the conference. So I'll tell you guys a little bit of a rundown of how it went and the highlights of it. Let's see. So Thursday night, I got together with some of the people from the conference, because the conference didn't officially start till Friday morning. But Thursday night, a bunch of people got together at the hotel that the conference was at the Novotel, and we all just kind of had drinks and chatted and kind of got to know each other a little bit more. And to be honest, as is usual, when I was about to enter into this space, not really knowing anyone, I was kind of a little intimidated that there would be, how many other women will be there. Because for me, I do always feel like I'm more intimidated by a group of girls than a group of guys. So when I walked in and I see there's only a table full of guys there and no females, I said, whew, okay, I feel relieved. This is going to be okay. This is going to be fun. Because there's other females that are supposed to be at the conference, but, like Cassie J or Karen Strawn, and I was a little bit intimidated at first about hanging out with them. But I was comforted to see the whole group of men, and I thought that's a great way to have an introduction to the weekend. So Mike Buchanan, I don't know if you know him, but Mike Buchanan was there, and many other guys from the conference. And that was cool because I got to sort of face my demons and my worst critics in a way. He immediately introduced me as a dating and relationship coach and said, you're not going to find any clients here. This is not the place for clients. Most people here are MGTOWs or in the men's rights movement. And I said, yeah, Mike, I'm pretty aware of that. I did not come to this conference to create clients. I did not come to promote my book. I really came because I wanted to, immerse myself in the men's rights movement more and get to know people more, get to know people in the men's rights movement, and really see how I can be more of an advocate for what they're fighting for and the issues that are facing men these days. Because I already am an advocate for that in my way, but I want to be more of a vocal and practicing advocate for men's issues. So I made that very clear from the beginning. But there's a suspicion, right? There's some guys were warmly receptive at first, and then there's other guys that were very suspicious at first and mistrustful, because this is a primarily all male space, and I'm in a way intruding on their all male space, and I understand that. So I was really trying to tread lightly and kind of just be low key and be in the background, and kind of, if people want to talk to me, they can talk to me if they feel comfortable. But I wasn't trying to make a lot of noise, and, really trying to let the guys connect with each other, and trying to be, respectful of their male space, their man cave. So, but the more the night wore on, the more guys would come up to me and say, okay, so what are you all about? Or they would come up to me and say, I watch your videos and I watch your YouTube. I really applaud you for what you do. Like, I want to know more about you and make love great again. So it was a really great way to start off the weekend, to get more personal and have drinks with these guys and get them, get to connect with them. That's a very important thing, is connecting with in a way, the many faces and the many kinds of people that subscribe to me or that are in my community. I'm just going through the chat room real quick before I go on. Aaron says, not everyone is as hot as you. I lost all hope of someone who stays in shape. Oh, really? Man, I would hope that more girls want to stay in shape, but remind me, I'm going to say something about that in a minute. If I could find one my age that was hot, not so mentally ill. What is your age, Aaron? What is your age? I'm curious. Question is, where to look or just give up? That's a good opportunity for me to talk about that today, so I will talk about that. You guys, someone here is falling asleep. So anyways, let me move on. The rest of the weekend, did you drink them under the table? No, I did not drink them under the table. I try to keep my cool. Oh, you're 40. Okay. 40 is a difficult age, I found. I found that a lot of women in the 30 to 40 range, or 45, a lot of them are feminists. A lot of them are pretty off their rocker crazy, but not all of them. I mean, I'm in between 30 and 40. Sorry, I'm actually in between 28 and 40. I'm forever 28. But no, really, there's hope out there. It's just that I think that there's the Generation Z actually seems to be more conservative and less feminist, and the older women tend to be more conservative and less feminist. But anyways, I move on. So it was great to hang out with people and connect with them. Then Friday is the first day of the conference, and there were a number of great talks. Karen Strawn, I'm sure you know who she is. She's one of the faces of the MRA movement, and she was the keynote speaker and gave a great keynote speech about feminism, and we need to, kick feminism to the dustbin of history. And she agrees with me in that women have always had a really high amount of social power in the world, right? They've always had a great deal of social power because they were kind of looked at as the moral voice of reason in a way in the world. And so during the time when there was the prohibition, and women were very powerful about sending a message to men about not drinking or not being addicted to alcohol. And they really made a lot of progress in that way, and kind of in convincing their men to not drink, that it was going to be bad for their families, that it was going to be bad for their careers, and that alcohol was going to be basically toxic for society. And the women of that age did a great job of coming together and really persuading men to do that, and to kind of hold men to a higher standard of morality. So women have been, she went through many other examples about how women have been very influential always in the past of creating social change. But so now it's a real mistake for men, especially in the MGTOW movement and the MRA movement, to turn away women who are trying to help them. Because there are a lot of anti-feminists out there, and a lot of women who sincerely care about men, who appreciate men very much, and who are very distraught by what the feminists have been doing. they are very concerned about men and the future of men and women and the family and the country. And they don't align with feminism at all. But when MRAs or MGTOWs or those kind of guys continuously just push away their efforts and just write them off as a trad con, or write them off as, trying to lure men back into the plantation or things like that, that's actually really the wrong way to go about it. It's not going to do anything except for demonize their movement and their cause even more. So she said, which I was actually really grateful to hear, because this is what I've always said, is that we need women. Men actually need women in this movement, and they need as many as possible in this movement so that they lend credibility to the men's movement. And yes, it would be all nice and peaches and roses if women just cared naturally on their own for the men's rights movement. However, the fact is that women often, every human being needs to see what is in it for them in order to change, in order to make a radical change, and especially something as so big as ditching feminist principles, which tends to be social suicide and career suicide in many other ways. You lose your friends, and so much more. I've lost most of my friends through this. You're asking for a huge deal. That's a huge risk for a girl to take. And not all women have the strength and courage to do that, and you can't be upset at them for that. So the other thing is, women tend to change more when they know that there's leaders in the group that are kind of leading the charge. Then they have more of the courage to also do the same. Women do tend to follow groupthink and what's popular. So if more popular women or women with bigger platforms denounce feminism publicly and talk about the men's rights movement, then the tide can actually start shifting, and more other women who maybe secretly felt these things could be persuaded. That's how we're going to change the tide. So to reject all women from the men's rights movement, or slander them and smear them as just, trad cons or whores, or manipulative, or somehow trying to deceive men, I think, and she believes too, that that's a dire mistake. Women are in a way, we can think of them as like the shields for men, because if the men's rights movement only goes about it the way that they're going about it, it's so quickly to discredit them as just misogynists, sexist, pigs, whiny crybabies. That's what their reputation is. And we really need to be very careful about branding and image and reputation for any kind of campaign to have any kind of merit and to have people actually listen. So, long story short, I was grateful that she said that, because that is what I've been thinking all along. We need more women in the men's rights movement. We need more women activists who will publicly denounce feminism and band together. And not just for making love great again, but making the world great again, right? And it has nothing to do with selfishly trying to lure men back into the plantation, but we're either headed for societal collapse, or we can try to find a way to mend fences with men and women and restore respect for men and appreciation, and restore the proper gender balance, okay? And I think that that's a very appealing thing for a lot of women to want, regardless of whether it leads to marriage or family or not, right? We don't really want societal collapse. I think only a masochist would want to see the world burn and have society collapse. So, going back to the chat room, and then I'm going to proceed. Aaron says, I was yelled at for opening a door at the office. Do I give up on this? Wow, what did she say? I'm curious. Slam that door in her face next time. I would give up on opening doors for women, sadly, unless you know the girl. So if you know her and you know that she's cool, like you're on a date with her, then I would open the doors for her. But if you don't know her and she's just a random woman, then maybe you stop opening the door and then see how she feels. Shooter says, there's one such woman who has similar values to yours in Australia, and she goes by the name of Bettina Arndt. I heard of that name over the weekend, and I heard that I should start looking at her. So thank you for telling me. Hey guys who are new here. Do not confuse MGTOW with MRAs. It's also quite disgusting when they do that, as they're doing far more for men than people who sit behind a keyboard and whine all day. Thank you. Yes, shooter down under 110%. A lot of us like trad cons. Will you protect me if a guy bullies me? Yes. The problem is that the changes that feminists have made it impossible for men to fulfill their traditional male role without great expense themselves. And that is exactly the case. So leads me to my next point. I don't even know if I would be considered a trad con or not, but I believe 100,000%, and I say this in my book, that we need to change the laws. We absolutely need to make the laws and the system equitable and fair for men. It cannot be gynocentric anymore. Those days are over. It does not work. They would only, I don't even know why they were around to begin with, but if we're going to have equal opportunity, we need to have equal rights. And 100% men need to be treated the same way as women in the legal system. And when it comes down to seeing their children, getting a divorce, etc., they absolutely need to be treated fairly and exactly the same, so that there is not this big burden on men financially and otherwise, and it reduces the risk for them to be in relationships or have a family or get married. So I am all aboard that train. I've been saying that for a long time now. And I can't imagine any woman who wouldn't want that too. If a woman doesn't want that, then I think that's an easy way for her to see that she's a con, right? The other thing is, I would also happily give up my right to vote. I would give up the right to vote, to be honest with you. If that meant that we could restore the proper relationship between men and women, and that we can get a natural, better balance going on with gender in society, if that meant something, then I would happily give up my right to vote. And once again, if a woman wouldn't give up her right to vote, then there might be something, then she's probably a con, right? So I don't see it as a big deal. I mean, I look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is so much more important than just me, myself, and I. And how could I be so selfish as to say, well, I need to have my right to vote, and and we also see what women voting has led to, probably Obama and Maxine Waters and the likes of them, and that socialist woman, Oksana, whatever her name is, from New York, who just won on a socialist platform. You think men were responsible for that, or more women? I would have to say more women. But anyways, yes, I would give up my right to vote. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's a small step for something that could possibly be big in restoring humanity. I was told by women I opened the door for, you don't know me and F off. I also got killed paying a check at dinner. What? Okay, I've got to hear the story that you were trying to pay a check at dinner and she got upset at you. I really need to hear that story. Oh, I thought it was like traditional con artist. I wasn't sure what exactly it meant. But no, I think that there needs to be, well, I'll continue a little bit later, but what I also saw at the event was a lot of hurt. You can tell that a lot of these men had been really seriously wounded and very hurt, and their stories were really heartbreaking. A lot of them, though, they carried that hurt in their body. So I'm really good at looking at body language, and a lot of these men, you can like feel and see their pain and their self-consciousness and their insecurity in the way that they carry themselves. It's a very small and it's very withdrawn. And I would have to say, too, that they can also be a target for women mistreating them or taking advantage of them by the way that they're carrying themselves. And this is something that I should go into in depth at a later webcast. But, this is why I teach the importance of men being very comfortable with their own masculinity. If they're comfortable and confident in their masculinity and in their role as a man in the world and with women, then they look different. The way that they carry themselves and their shoulders and their posture is different. The way they walk and the way they talk, they're different. And is it the chicken or the egg, right? Is it he is coming across very insecure and unsure of himself, and then he's more likely to be taken advantage of? Or does he get taken advantage of and then he loses confidence in himself, or a combination? But either way, these are the kinds of things that should be taught, and not more of an echo chamber of pain. And this was something I found some people who gave talks up there were promoting more of this echo chamber, where guys are just sitting in their seats and they're in pain, and they're, you can tell that they're very, very insecure, not comfortable with their masculinity, and they wear it on their sleeve. And they're just hearing this message of, don't ever trust a woman. All women are abusive. Never look at in the eyes for a woman. All women have the tendency to get you and to use and abuse you. Blah blah blah. And you can just hear them in their head thinking like, this is validating to me. This is validating. Yes, yes. And it's sort of like mental masturbation in a way. But does it solve anything? I would have to say no. I don't think that really is a solution. I think it's just going to keep them more in that echo chamber, keep them more in their pain. And really, it's like a Band-Aid for the bigger, for the solution of the bigger problem. They're never actually going to get the right coaching or the guidance or the right relationship with their own masculinity to actually make a difference in their life and the lives of others. So I did hear a lot of those messages, and that was hard to hear. But again, it made me realize that there's a space for some improvement there. And then I hear some messages that were very positive. That were actually saying, yes, we do need more women into the fold. And it's silly to turn them away. It's silly to, say that they're all bad, because we need more women in the fold to give our movement credibility. Okay, going back to the chat rooms. I'm Basook. Love this podcast. Hey, what's up, Basook? Welcome to Make Love Great Again. Welcome in. I'm 33 years old and I'm afraid of women. Oh my goodness. Why are you afraid of women? I don't think you need to be afraid, though, because fear has a way of, remember, when you're fearful, you're holding all of this in, and it comes out in your body, and then you actually become more of a target for things. Whereas if you're in your masculine energy, you become much less of a target, and people actually fear you, and they respect you. Hey, what's up, liberals are icky. Just like you have to address to receive certain social services, yes. I talked about family and then talked about some cars. Then later I came to the bill. I touched her hand and said, "What's your story?" She went on about her job and I tuned in. I waved a waiter. Well, women have lots of social influence inside, perhaps more powerfully socially than men. Women do have a lot of social influence, but not in the way that they're using it now. See, right now, they're totally misusing their social influence. They are going around with vagina hats on their heads, screaming that they're oppressed and that they're the minority and they're marginalized, and that men need to do more and step up to the plate. When this is so not true, they should instead be using their social influence to denounce feminist principles and say it's just done, it's tired, we're bored of it, it's destructive, and be more of a voice for men. I would be afraid of women in a way because women, their attitudes are terrible. Their attitudes, not all women, but a lot of their attitudes are terrible, unfortunately. Yes. Woo. Blowing some kisses at you. The problem is the mixed messages we're getting from feminism and other women because it's not consistent. Exactly, it's not consistent. See, some women, like me, I like gender roles. I love when a man is more of a leader. I like just being his supporter. And I really like that dynamic where I'm not emasculating him. He's just powerful. He's powerful in his masculinity, and I like when he's more of the man and I'm more of a female. He could be more of the decision maker. That's fine with me. And I want to really trust him and admire him. And I also wouldn't mind if, I'm the main raiser of children, And if he is more of the main provider, I wouldn't mind that, as long as I did a really good ass job of raising those children and, you know, made his life easier. He came home from dinner, you know, he came home and I had dinner ready for him. He came home and I would massage his neck or ask him how his day was. And the things that make you a team to make my life easier and for me to make his life easier, you know, I think that the gender roles were around for so many hundreds and thousands of years that they really did work for a reason. But I do think that when a woman and her children are old enough, I think maybe she should go back to work so that she can ease the responsibility from the man. I think that maybe when she raises her kids, she can have a stay-at-home job or work from home kind of situation if they can't afford for him to be the sole breadwinner. So whatever it is, I think that there's a way that you guys can both make it work. It doesn't have to be so clear with the gender roles, but for the majority of the time, I do think that men are more attractive when they're consistent with more masculinity, and women are more consistent with their femininity. I think on the whole, then you create a team and you respect each other's differences and celebrate each other's differences. I think that there's everything right with that kind of teamwork. I believe in teamwork, and when two people try to be exactly the same, it does not work because they're not the same, they're different. When two people try on the same team try to be the exact same person in the exact same role, it becomes a competition. It doesn't become a team. I remind you of Stacey Dash, huh? That's awesome. I like her. She's hot. She's cool. She's smart. And she also is a little darker than me, but maybe I'll get a little darker this summer. So the same woman who's going to try and push catcalls as being a hate crime against women is not the same who's getting catcalls. Absolutely. That's a really great way to break that down in a quick way. Yeah. The girl who's getting catcalls is probably a girl who enjoys her femininity. You guys are so cute in the chat room. Is it really that hard for people to date nowadays? I've been out of the game for about 10 years. Ooh, you better get back in the game if you want to, because it might get worse, it might get better. I'm hoping it gets better. But I do think you should, you know, jump on it if you want to, just so women don't get worse. I hope one day I can have children with DeAnna. Thanks. I guess. I hope I bear lots of children. So on Friday, we got into, you know, I liked that, and then we had, like I said, a combination of some people that were kind of Debbie Downers that were just like, oh my God, you know, woe is me. And by the way, I say all of this to their face. I had wonderful conversations with these men all weekend long. I'm fortunate that I got to spend a lot of time with them, and they really opened up to me all weekend. So everything that I'm telling you, I told them to their face. I don't hold anything back. I think you guys know me by now that I'm really authentic, and I hate dishonesty or being two-faced. So everything I'm telling you guys, I absolutely talk to them about bluntly. And you know, I was a little discouraged by some of the very victim, kind of the victimhood sort of talks that were there, which there were a few of them. But then there was also a lot of just fact-based talks too. Here's the rate of female violence towards men. You know, here's how feminism is starting to change in academia. You know, things like that. I will never circumcise my son now. I learned that for sure. I did not know the barbaric, you know, how the horrors really of circumcision until I watched this video and until we had a discussion about it. And I always just thought, as a lot of people do, that it's just what you do. You give birth in America, it's a boy, get him circumcised, because that's just what you do. But no one really thinks, why do we do that? It's not really for religious purposes, unless you're Jewish. Why are we doing it? It's not really for health purposes, because when you look at the statistics on it, there's not really any real benefit health-wise for that than if you're not circumcised. So why are we doing that? Why are we delusion and, sorry, my brain is in a complete fog, but why are we mangling men and boys at such a young age before their consent. I would think that women would be up in arms about this, saying, oh, it's before a baby's consent that you're mutilating their genitals, because they do that with everything else. So why not boys? But anyways, it is a barbaric practice, and I am happy that I watched this video and had these discussions, and I'm woke about it, and I would love to get more women on board with this, and men, as I just don't think that a lot of people know that this is a truly barbaric practice, and it should be outlawed. Ugh. So I'm never going to circumcise my boy, unless I guess he asks for it. But that's another takeaway from the weekend, and I hope that you guys maybe don't circumcise your children too, or look into it more, how barbaric of a practice it is. So there's that. We also talked about, we had one guy that came on the show, or came on the talk, and he was a professor, and I wasn't quite sure if I liked his talk as much, and it kind of ruffled a lot of feathers. He gave a talk about how masculinity is changing, and he believes, and he gave facts that that more people now identify as just slightly masculine, slightly heterosexual, but not like 100% heterosexual. Whereas before, you know, within like 30 years ago, people who were heterosexual were rating themselves as highly heterosexual, like I'm all straight. Now it's very fluid, and I was sad to see these numbers, but I guess a lot of people, you know, I guess maybe like 70% of people now only rate themselves as slightly heterosexual, but a little bit more fluid. And this professor also happened to be gay. And he kept saying, this is not changing, this trend. This trend in heterosexuality is not changing, so you guys better get used to it. And he caused a little bit of a reaction, and I'm happy about that reaction. And it was funny because it was more girls that had more of a stronger reaction than men did. Because we didn't like that. We didn't like to hear that 70% of guys were identifying themselves as kind of fluid and not 100% straight. That doesn't really sit well with us. We would kind of prefer our men to be 100% straight if they're going to be straight. But this professor seemed all too happy to share this. So I didn't really care to hear that, and I would like to look into more of the stats and see what those questions pertained. Yeah, that was a little bit interesting. That was probably a male feminist. Where are these numbers? Because that's a feminist narrative. Yes, I know. Yeah, his talk was about how masculinity is sort of changing and becoming more fluid. I said, wait a second, I don't really like this. I'm considering going gay because I can't get women. No, 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 that's not the answer. But that's what Marxism wants you to do. Marxists created this big plan many years ago, the Marxist agenda. And part of the Marxist agenda is the homosexual agenda. And it's all about making women so feminist and so unattractive to men and so difficult to be around that men will feel that other men are more desirable than these crazy, unattractive women. So when they think that, then they're going to start thinking, maybe I should experiment with being gay, and then the gay community will welcome them with open arms. Transgenders also will start appearing even more attractive to have sex with than females, and they will welcome straight guys with open arms and say, come to our community, you know, we're so much better than females. Then you more and more will turn gay, and we will have many more guys that are going from straight to gay. Women will continue to be feminists, and then look, it just continues to divide and divide. Divide and conquer. We become more weak, we have less families, we reduce the population because no one's having babies if most people are gay, and it's exactly falls right into the Marxist agenda. And you should really learn more about it if you want to learn. It is in my book about the Marxist agenda, the homosexual agenda, but it's a scary thing and it's a real thing. So if you are straight and you're considering turning gay, you're falling right into that plan, and I hope you don't. Yes, it is an ideology that will die out. Harvard study shows liberal men have lower testosterone levels than conservative men. Right on. So that just proves that liberal men really are soy boys, And they really are more gay and feminine, and conservative men are more manly and sexy. Yes. Heterosexuality and relationships is a problem for feminism because they want to collectivize women against men, so it has to go. You guys, there's hope out there. There's hope. And let me just show you a couple of my pictures through the weekend. Whoop. Oh my goodness. So, of course, Cassie J from the Red Pill was there. And if you want to follow me, that's me. DeAnna Lorraine 7. So, okay. Here's Cassie J. Great picture with me and Cassie J from the Red Pill. I spent a lot of time getting to know Cassie J throughout the weekend. And she's actually a beautiful woman, inside and out. She's genuinely curious. It's great to find another woman who is genuinely curious about life and about men and about people. It's really nice to see that. She's a great listener as well, and she likes to talk about things that make her feel uncomfortable. And that's a really wonderful quality in a woman because, you know, most people just, they steer away, they steer clear from things that make them uncomfortable. But she doesn't. She's like me. She's a warrior, and she is lovely and great to talk to. And her boyfriend, or sorry, her husband, she just got married a few weeks ago, and her husband was there. He was a darling person as well and was great to talk to. So I'm actually, guess what? I'm going to have them on my show. Yes, I'm going to have Cassie J from the Red Pill on my show either this week or next week. And then her husband's going to pop on as well, and we're going to have an interview with both of them about, you know, being a woman that went from feminist to non-feminist, who created the Red Pill movement, is, and now she's getting married. It gives hope, I think, to a lot of people that it can work, because she's surrounded by so many men in the men's rights movement saying that they're against marriage and they're against family and never marry a woman or trust a woman. But here she is, and she just got married a couple weeks ago. And I would love to hear what their journey is and how they're going to kind of fail-proof their marriage so that they can prevent some of these terrible things that are often likely to happen and reduce their chances of getting a divorce and increase their chances of love and happiness. So I will have Cassie J on my show in the next week or so. And who else did I meet? There's Karen Strawn. She was lovely as well. She's definitely a free thinker and a fighter. Spent some time with her. This guy I'm also going to have on my show. Oh, and Karen Strawn, she told me she'll be on my podcast too, so hopefully she follows through with that and we can have her on soon. This guy is awesome. His name is Darren Diogi, and really cool guy, Scottish guy, man in a kilt. And he talks about the essence of masculinity and this concept that he says is electromagnetism in relationships. And that's the biggest thing in order to get relationships right. And I was actually really excited to have him there because he was another person like me who understands that societal collapse is not the answer. And watching the world burn is not really the answer. And he genuinely thinks that if we're not having love at the end of our life, if we're not having a relationship with the opposite sex, what the hell is life worth living for? He doesn't see any logic or reason in just living life as a solo, selfish individual who has nothing to show for it. He just doesn't think that we're designed to be that way, and he believes that we're just getting some certain things wrong as a culture and as men and women individually, and that's why our relationships are falling apart. But if we understand certain concepts, like what I talk about keeping the electromagnetic charge of masculinity and femininity alive in the relationships, you're going to be a man who is a force to be reckoned with. You're going to be a man who people of all men and women listen to, they respect, they admire, they desire. And you will have so much power through life that you will just naturally attract people to you and opportunities and success to you. And you will have a really easy time in relationships, or at least a much easier time in relationships. The problem with most guys is that they've lost their charge. They don't have a charge. They're like, it's like women are the magnetism and men are the electric charge. Most guys that have problems with women or relationships or even success in life, they don't charge themselves well. They don't charge that masculine energy. So they're walking around like a shell of themselves, kind of dead inside, and they're empty inside, and there's no charge there. So if there's no charge there, there's no woman is going to be attracted to that, and no opportunities will be attracted to that, and they'll walk around kind of like lifeless in life. You need to charge your masculine energy. You need to know how to charge it and how to use it. So you are like a live wire of electricity that is just constantly, attracting great things to you and having success. And he was a walking and talking example of that. And an example of a guy wearing a kilt. I personally like when men wear more manly things, but he was wearing a kilt all weekend. But he was still the most masculine guy probably out of everybody there, because of how he had the energy that he generated around him. And when he spoke with convincing, persuasiveness. And when he spoke with a lot of masculinity and impact. And that energy around him really brought people to him. So he's going to be on my show as well. And I'm excited to introduce some new people to you. Darren DOG will be on my show again, either later this week or early next week. So we can look forward to that. Some new guys. And who else was here? There's me. Woohoo! International Conference on Men's Issues. This is the Scottish guy. You can't really go wrong with some bagpipes of an entrance, right? Okay, there's me on Honey Badger Radio. I got interviewed again on Honey Badger Radio, this time over video. So tune in to the Honey Badger Radio. I think they'll let me know when this episode is on specifically, but it should be in the next week or so. And I took a lot of other pictures, but if you want to look, there's Karen Strong giving the keynote speech. So look on my Instagram if you want to see more of my pictures from the conference. Yep. I'm that uncharged, empty shell of a man. Interesting. Well, let's work together and get more of your charge up. Too loud. We're also not really supposed to be or made to be around the opposite sex all day. I agree. I think that men actually, we talked a lot about masculine spaces and the importance of them. So when they have separate masculine spaces, that's actually a really great way for them to, it's not just great, sorry, it's instrumental, it's important, it's essential for them to charge their masculine energy. This was why the Boy Scouts was so important. This was why fraternities are so important, or even going to baseball games or watching football games with your fellow male friends. Why those are so important, because they're a great way to charge your masculine energy. And if you're around females all day long in work, after work and leisure time, etc., you're not really ever getting that space to just be around testosterone and charge your masculine energy. So great point. Yes, male spaces are very important, and that's why, even men going to work and they're working all day, but they have women working with them. A lot of times, not only does that not charge their masculine energy, but women can toxify that work environment. They can toxify it and put their little stuff in it, or say, ooh, don't talk about those things around me. Ooh, don't talk about locker room talk around me. That's inappropriate. Ooh, and when you get enough of that from women working with you, saying don't talk about this or don't talk about that, that's inappropriate, then a man is going to start stifling all of that within him. He's going to stifle his energy. He's going to stifle his communication. And again, he becomes discharged. And the women are all empowered and they can talk whatever they want to talk about. But the men become more and more isolated and more discharged instead of recharged. So we're walking around the world with a generation full of men who are not properly charged in their masculine energy. They're not properly charged. They're weaker, and they're just kind of becoming withdrawn and empty and low energy. And the women are having their places to get recharged. They're going to their female-only places. They're getting charged through the media, through social media, through friends all telling them the women are the future, be empowered, women rule. And so women are becoming more and more charged. Men are becoming more and more discharged. And it's really just comes down to electromagnetism that we need to understand and get right. So very cool. I'm excited to have this guy on the show very soon here. I will also have Elizabeth Hobson on my show. She's an anti-feminist girl as well. Very cute girl from London. She'll be on the show too. So I've got a lot of great guests that I'm going to have on my show now that I've connected with them. And I will say too, the conversations I had with men were really awesome. A lot of the men agreed with me that they feel it's ridiculous to cast out all women, a la Paul Elam. And I don't want to, it's hard for me, who's kind of more newer at this, to critique someone else who's a big leader in the men's rights movement, who is Paul Elam, big leader in the movement. But when he gave his speech, and he did it through video, he wasn't able to come in, but when he gave his speech through video, it was I would have to say, I was a little disappointed in it. It was extremely negative, and it was not ending on any positive note. His main message was, there's a lot of women who are now starting to denounce feminism, and they're starting to call themselves anti-feminists, and they're joining our crusade. And my message to you is, never trust them. Never trust them, because no matter how much anti-feminist they are, they still are not truly for men. They still are doing it for selfish purposes. So you need to be vigilant. Never trust any woman, no matter how anti-feminism they say they are. He said, besides one woman, Janice Flamenco, who is also an anti-feminist and men's rights activist. She's an older woman who is also there. He said, basically, besides from her, all women have sinister intentions and they can't be trusted. And I was like pretty saddened and shocked to hear that, and looking around in the room, and it kind of weighed the energy of the room down. And luckily, when we went out later that night and I got to talking to the guys, a lot of the guys shared the sentiment. They said, we were disappointed in what he said, because here we are, there's a few women at this conference. They're openly denouncing feminism. They're learning, and they're taking the time and the money and the social reputation hit to actually come here and learn about men's rights issues and be an ally to men. And you're going to go around and say that their intentions aren't pure. That just really doesn't feel like it's helping the cause, nor is it at all helping restore the wounds between men and women right now. So again, you can call me what you want, trad, con, whatever, but I simply refuse to believe that. I grew up with 4 brothers and no sisters, and my love and care for men is tremendous. I probably care more about men's issues than women's issues, because I do believe men have been handed a bad deck of cards here, and I believe men are intrinsically good. I would say from my experience growing up with men, I do think that men are probably, I hate to say this, but they're probably more, they can be better friends often than women can be. And I think that, when we're talking about repairing the relationship between men and women, it absolutely needs to be done. But I think that, and my care for men is so sincere. It's so genuine. I really am risking a lot to speak out against the evils of feminism. And I know that there's women out there that have the right intentions and genuinely want to help men. And to cast them all off, paint them all in the same brush is just a real big mistake, I think. We should want and welcome more of them into the fold, into the movement. Because look, I'm a solutions person, and there's no way, and I'm a coach as well, so there's no way I can sit here and watch people complain and stay in their misery and their victimhood, just like feminism, and not have any solutions. It's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous waste of time and energy to remain in victimhood and yet have no solutions. That just proves that all you want to do is remain a victim and not actually create a solution and move forward. So, for men to just say that they're all they want to do, this just is a boys' club, and, women can't change anything, it's just kind of silly. I think that women, although men are very powerful in this movement already, we have to look at history, and history has shown that they're repeatedly slandered and smeared and just discredited as a bunch of crybabies or misogynists. So women can bring in a certain kind of social power and credibility to the movement and to men's issues that I think is missing right now. All right. So those are some of my thoughts throughout the weekend. And the conversations, again, that I had with most of these men were incredibly respectful. It was wonderful to see them warm up to me. A lot of them that were skeptical at first, they were warming up to me by the end of the weekend. And then a lot of men, too, they were very curious about my thoughts and very interested in hearing my thoughts and the thoughts of the other women. And they liked having girls in the group. They didn't feel like having it just be a giant sausage fest. They wanted having some of the girls there. And we brought in a different perspective. And yet we were very, very respectful of each other and our views. So I found the weekend to be overall extremely productive. And I feel hopeful, too, that I think the tide is changing and turning. And I think that to me, it's very refreshing to see more women just totally denounce feminism and just being so sick of it. And I think that men, too, are becoming more receptive of that. And we understand that the key to a healthy society is restoring that relationship between each other and, restoring that respect and giving that respect back to men. But yeah, it was a lot of just wonderful conversations, a lot of positivity, a lot of feeling like the tide is turning. I was actually disappointed that more men weren't at the conference, because these guys, in a way, they're taking the hit. They're sort of becoming the fall boys for many men's thoughts. Many men are kind of being, I think, a traitor to men by just becoming an ally to feminism and saying that they're a male feminist and chastising these guys who are standing up against these attacks against men and masculinity, and not defending them. And the boys at this conference and the men at this conference, they are taking the hit. They're basically the fall boys. They're saying enough is enough and going to this conference and becoming men's rights activists. And they're getting a lot of flack for it in a lot of their communities. So I think more men are afraid to do these things, or afraid to speak up, even though they know in their heart of hearts it's wrong what feminism is doing to them. But I wish, and I would call on more men to stand up publicly and denounce these things and stand up to feminists, and don't be afraid anymore. You should not be afraid to say feminism has been hurting the world, or saying that this is wrong. We've just got to get more people on the bandwagon so the culture can change. Yeah. We don't have anything without women because their voice is more powerful when it comes to sympathy. Right. It's the most realistic thing to do. After all, we need the other side to be our side if we are to turn it around. That's how I feel. Bye, guys. What is the societal benefit of rejecting feminism? Oh my God, there's so many societal benefits of rejecting feminism. I mean, we can actually restore the balance between men and women. We can, I think that women in higher powers of leadership are starting to wreak havoc on the world and in our countries. It's shamed heavily and it's demonized in the media because they don't believe men should have a voice outside feminism. Exactly. Another thing, someone asked, where do I find more women that believe these things? Well, I have to say, too, to women, I think women should, you know, we already talked about women becoming more desirable, but I have women, a lot of women I know, they're just not interested in talking about politics. They're not interested in talking about political issues or the issues affecting the world. They don't watch the news. And I have to say, I find that men these days are becoming a lot more attracted to women who care about the things going on in the world and who care about the issues, the political issues affecting the country and the world. Men maybe didn't care so much about that before in a woman, but what I'm finding is a lot of guys saying that they do care about that now, and it's kind of boring, you know, going on dates or connecting with women, and she doesn't listen to the news, she has no idea what's going on in the world. It's kind of boring for them, because most guys are more plugged into the media now or plugged into current events and the news. So I would say to women, watch the news. Careful which ones you watch to, but watch at least Fox News. Plug into some news shows that you like. Maybe choose a few, like my show, that gives you a digest of the news. You can watch Ben Shapiro or CRTV. Just Steven Crowder. Choose a few that you like that are entertaining to watch, and watch them throughout the week. So you should know what's going on. You should know what's going on in the world. I think women should, and I think a lot of women who don't get asked out for second and third dates now, I think a big reason why is because they're not red-pilled. You know, they don't have any interest or curiosity in the world, for number one. And number two, obviously, if they say that they're a feminist. But really, I think a lot of men like red-pilled women at this age that we live in now, and it sets you apart. And it's not that difficult to do. But it shows a certain amount of intelligence and curiosity for life and just curiosity in the world around you when you pay attention to current events and when you can have intelligent discussions around that. So I find that is the new sort of attraction factor for men. Yeah, Trump knows women are important because you grab a man by the whatever. Yes, okay, Trump hater. You are the female companion to Jordan Peterson. Thank you. I take that as a big compliment because he has my mad respect, Jordan Peterson. How cool would it be if I went on tour with Jordan Peterson and a couple of other of those folks? I used to always hate politics and tried my best to escape it, but unfortunately, there's no escape from it. I agree. I never used to care so much about politics, but the last 2 years since the election and since you know, all these crazy things have been happening in our world, I kind of feel I've taken such a stronger interest in current events, and it's become to the point where how could you not be interested in current events now with everything going on in the world? I can't imagine not knowing. I can't imagine not like checking the news every day and just hearing a little bit about what's going on. You can't fix the problems until you can get feminism out of the education system. Yes, we got to get out of the education system. We got to cleanse it from history, really. I mean, there's always been times where we've tried something in the world and thought it was a good idea at the time, and then it just turned out it wasn't a good idea. It didn't actually work. Maybe like socialism or something else, some sort of movement, even the prohibition. You know, we found out maybe people should be free to drink alcohol, right? And it shouldn't be forbidden. But there's times where we try something and it didn't really work. It had more negative effects than positive ones. So why can't feminism just be one of those things where we look back as a stain on the society, but we're like, man, that was a mistake, and thank gosh we learned from it. Whew. And let's move on. You know, let's look back on it as a learning lesson and move the heck on, right? Yes. Only if those current events aren't fake news. They have direct access to our children at a young age, and it starts really early. Yes, it starts really early, and that's the scary thing. They are absolutely indoctrinating our children. The feminist prime minister in Australia, and we couldn't wait to get rid of her. Ugh. I could only imagine. That's why I'm very grateful that Trump is president and not Hillary. I don't know how I feel about people being free to smoke marijuana. I mean, I know that there's medical purposes for it too, but I'm still kind of thinking about that. If it's regulated, I don't know. I don't think marijuana is a very harmful drug. It's just, I think that, in fact, if the Republican Party, if they got rid of their harsh stance on marijuana and they said, you know what, why don't we just legalize it? You know, if they did something like that, I think that much more people would get on board in the Republican Party, because that's sort of one of those swing issues that Democrats, a lot of times, they hold on to. Oh, but they're so against marijuana. But that would be a smart tactic, I think, for them, because I don't think marijuana really is a violent drug. It doesn't typically hurt anyone. I don't even really think it's a gateway drug. It's something that could be therapeutic and medicinal. So I don't know. I think that if it's regulated and, you know, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. The 53% of white women who voted Trump, also overwhelmingly straight women with the LGBT soup on the other side. Oh, yeah. 53% of women who voted for Trump. What does that say? Does that make you think he's really a sexist or misogynist? No. Do I consider myself anti-woman? Someone said. No, I consider myself anti-feminist. Yes. Not anti-woman, but anti-feminist. So now I'm going to say the closing prayer so I can actually go and take a little nap for an hour to sleep off some of this jet lag. But you guys are amazing. Thank you for your wonderful listening skills. Oh, that reminds me. That was another thing I was going to tell the women out there who are listening. So another big important quality, I think, for a woman is listening. The ability to listen. I think, you know, too many women don't know how to listen, and they're just in their head the whole time a man is talking. They're waiting for their opportunity to talk instead of actually hearing what he's saying and listening. And I think a really big, important quality to connecting with men is your ability to listen and hear what is important to him. What is he passionate about? What does he love? What does he not like? What are his dreams? What are his hopes? And too many women just don't seem to care about anything other than the next shopping trip or what's in her head. Not all women, trust me, but I think I'm just saying, you know, what else is going to make women, I think, more attractive to men is the ability to listen. They don't have listening skills. Okay, so we're going to continue the conversation on Wednesday. On Wednesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Pacific time, 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to go ahead and say the closing prayer, and I'm going to then go to sleep for a little bit. Dear Lord, I pray that more women and men see the light and can open their hearts to love instead of hate, can open their hearts to unity rather than divisiveness, can open their minds to truth rather than lies. I pray for love and protection for our great president and his family and all those working for us, that they remain safe and resilient in the face of so many forces working against them. I pray for all of you and the truth warriors of the world who are courageously speaking the truth and boldly working to bring those who are in the darkness over to the light. Put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in heavenly places. I pray that all of you find true and lasting love, and that God puts an incredible partner on this journey for you in your life to be with you, and that he brings you the beautiful family, the joy, and all the blessings that you deserve. And lastly, we know that good conquers evil, that love conquers hate, and that together, with God's help and grace, we were able to make our country and our world great again. Amen. Okay, guys, now that I've cloaked you in a nice blanket of love and protection from all the crazy forces out there, go on forth and conquer in your day. Make it a fantastic, productive day. And we will see you on Wednesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Pacific Time, which is 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, guys? And we will continue our wonderful, lively conversation. Make America great again, and make love great again. Bye, guys. We didn't end with our song. Stand up today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land.